All right. Welcome to the Weekly Wise lecture series. I'm Matt Parks. I will be your MC and host today. Glad to have you with us. We are, to give you some background, the Weekly Wise got started initially as a way, we were thinking of how do we use up all of our ice cream that we have left over from our Ben & Jerry's Recon Day.
That's your story.
And so we were thinking about that, and we wanted to somehow integrate it with our business, if there was a way to do that. But we also wanted to make sure that if we did that, it was a really valuable experience for people, and that we attracted people who actually would want to hear about it and want to know more about what we do. So as we thought about that and how to do that, we realized that people who believe as we do, who believe that lifelong learning is not just a nice idea, but that lifelong learning is a core characteristic of life's purpose, these are the types of people that would be interested in knowing a little bit more about what we do. So we decided to put together the Weekly Wise lecture series, and we invite different people to come and share a message that they have. People like you, people like me, that have a message to share, that want to inspire others. So today I am very pleased to introduce our speaker. It is my lovely bride of coming up on 9 years. I got the number right.
Yes.
I knew I did. But, so she is, I could talk probably her whole 30 minutes just about her, but I won't do that. She is an amazing woman, a phenomenal woman. You know I would say that, but she is a student of the classics. She loves to learn. She is very passionate about that. And a lot of that, all of it, I believe, is driven from her core mission in life, which is mother. She's a phenomenal mom. She's an amazing wife. She fulfills those roles so well. I'm so grateful that I get to have her. And it's that drive that makes her so passionate and so, what's the word? Amazing at it. I'm looking for a word. Proficient. That's the word I was looking at. Proficient at study and learning and becoming the best she can so that she can help our children do the same. And so I am so excited to hear what she has to say. I've heard a little bits of it before, but I haven't heard this presentation, so I'm looking forward to it. And I will turn it over to you. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you.
Oh, after you.
Well, if any of you want to come and speak at the Weekly Wise lecture series, you too can get raved about by Matt Parks. It's quite a fun and maybe stretching experience to talk about that one.
I won't give you a kiss, though. Just her.
He didn't do that yet for me either.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Oh, I don't think everyone needs
Wanted to
to.
see that? Oh.
You know, there's our own little flair on presentation style. So I'm going to start off by reading a little bit from The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey to get us rolling. He told a story, and it's a little bit long, but it's a lot good, so we're going to go with it. Okay, he said we're at 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. A few years ago, my wife Sandra and I were struggling with a concern. One of our sons was having a very difficult time in school. He was doing poorly academically. He didn't even know how to follow the instructions on the test, let alone do well on them. Socially, he was immature, often embarrassing those closest to him. Athletically, he was small, skinny, and uncoordinated, swinging his baseball bat, for example, almost before the ball was even pitched. Others would laugh at him. Sandra and I were consumed with a desire to help him. We felt that if success were important in any area of life, it was supremely important in our role as parents. So we worked on our attitudes and behavior toward him, and we tried to work on his. We attempted to psych him up using positive mental attitude techniques. Come on, son, you can do it. We know you can. Put your hands a little higher on the bat and keep your eye on the ball. Don't swing till it gets close to you. And if he did a little better, we would go to great lengths to reinforce him. That's good, son. Keep it up. When others laughed, we reprimanded them. Leave him alone. Get off his back. He's just learning. And our son would cry and insist that he'd never be any good and that he didn't like baseball anyway. Nothing we did seemed to help, and we were really worried. We could see the effect this was having on his self-esteem. We tried to be encouraging and helpful and positive, but after repeated failure, we finally drew back and tried to look at the situation on a different level. He goes on to talk about his work that he was doing in some of the presentations he was doing for other companies. And he says, as Sandra and I talked about the concepts I was teaching at IBM and about our own situation, we began to realize that what we were doing to help our son was not in harmony with the way we really saw him. When we honestly examined our deepest feelings, we realized that our perception was that he was basically inadequate, somehow behind. No matter how much we worked on our attitude and behavior, our efforts were ineffective because despite our actions and our words, what we really communicated to him was, you aren't capable, you have to be protected. We began to realize that if we wanted to change the situation, we first had to change ourselves. And to change ourselves effectively, we first had to change our perceptions. As Sandra and I talked, we became painfully aware of the powerful influence of our own character and motives, and of our perception of him. We knew that social comparison motives were out of harmony with our deeper values and could lead to conditional love and eventually to our son's lessened sense of self-worth. So we determined to focus our efforts on us, not on our techniques, but on our deepest motives and our perception of him. Instead of trying to change him, we tried to stand apart, to separate us from him and to his sense of identity, individuality, separateness, and worth. He goes on to talk about the process that they went through with faith and prayer and giving their son some more space and changing the way they interacted with him, and how at first it was hard for their son because he'd gotten used to being protected by mom and dad. And so it was a difficult thing for him to get used to. But as time went on, he began to blossom and really develop himself on his own pace. And by the end, he had quite a nice track record of accomplishments and behaviors. But the point of the lesson was not how changing their way of being helped their son become all the things they had hoped for him socially or athletically or academically. That wasn't the point for them. When they changed, they had a whole big paradigm shift, and that's what Stephen Covey's talking about at that point, shifting your paradigm, that allowed them to see their son in a way that was in harmony with who they really wanted to be as parents. And so tonight we're going to talk a bit about who we want to be inside and how we get to be who we really want to be. So as I was reading this, it was applicable to me because of an experience I had just last week. And I was thinking about that, and it was a situation that I was frustrated with and that I didn't like and I wanted to change. And so my way of going about changing it was to tell Matt all the things I didn't like about it and all the things that he should do to change the situation. That was a good idea, huh? So it didn't work out that way. It didn't turn out to be such a good idea. What really happened in that conversation, what we ended up with, was this big shift in my mind to realize about how much I was going about it the wrong way, which I knew, but I was still doing it. And how much I wanted to be changing the way I go about things when there's something I don't like. And so I thought about that, and I wanted to go through, I'm not going to use the example that we were talking about last week, but use a simple little example to illustrate this point. So we have a 1-year-old son and 3 daughters. And our daughters really like Benjamin. They like to touch him and kiss him and mess with him and help save him when he's in danger and all this stuff. What it looks like to us is people just won't leave Benjamin alone. And what it looks like to Benjamin is that he just wishes people would give him some more space, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. And so when that happens, some kid touches Benjamin. We have a rule in our house that you can't touch Benjamin without permission. And I get frustrated very often because that rule is ignored far more often than it's followed. And so thinking about this, there's a thought that I know I have when I see a kid touching Benjamin without permission, and my thought is, she should know better by now, because we've discussed this rule over and over and over and over. But the thought is, she should know better. So I want to ask you, when I have the thought, she should know better, what other things do I start to think?
She's dumb.
Maybe. Maybe she's being defiant. She's dumb. I hope I don't think she's dumb. But maybe that's like underlying underlying what I'm thinking. Why can't she understand? Yeah. So if I'm thinking she's defiant or she's dumb, she's not obeying the rules, she should know better, what am I feeling, most likely?
Frustration. Frustrated was the word.
Frustrated is the right word. That is what I feel. So if I'm thinking she should know better and all those other thoughts, and I'm feeling frustrated, what is likely to be my action? You can guess whatever you think it might be.
Well, I know what mine would be, but
You probably know what mine would be too.
tell them to stop, pick up Benjamin, so they can't touch him.
Yeah?
Intervene, and tell them, come on, you have a consequence.
Mm-hmm.
No, stop it.
What were you thinking, Arnold?
Discipline, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So if I had the thought that she should know better, what would my habit be? It's probably related to the actions. I'd probably do the same actions over and over. How could it affect my habit? We can just leave it at that action. It probably would be my habit to do that action over and over. What would be the effect on my character of thinking she should know better? Why is she doing this again? If I had that thought and those habits over and over and over, how would it affect it?
Probably would make you a less happy character.
Yeah.
Talking about character, like just a less happy person overall, more likely to be in the mode of
I think it would, for me, I would tend to jump to judgment and criticism. You know?
Yeah.
Not necessarily spoken, the judgment or the punishment would be spoken, but, you know, in my head, that judgment and criticism.
Yeah.
And they feel that.
Yes, for sure. It changes the environment as well as what is happening inside, because what is inside affects what's going on outside. My sister, I was talking to her about these concepts, and she said she thinks in her case it would make her either more punitive and just no, or to withdraw emotionally because she's upset with them, so to protect herself she would withdraw. And we talked about that and about how she sees herself and what character she wants, and she says withdrawn is not one of the characteristics that she's hoping that she's developing in her family. And part of her character, she wants to have emotional connectedness. So when she withdraws, it's like Stephen Covey said, it's out of harmony with what she really wants to be. And I'll tell you, when people are messing with Benjamin and I'm having this process go on, I'm probably not in harmony with who I want to be in those moments either. And the fact that people are touching Benjamin may or may not change. So far, our track record's not that impressive. It's not been changing just from me doing whatever I've done. And so I again have plenty of opportunities to keep practicing this, but I want to choose who I want to be, no matter what else other people are choosing. This book right here, Little Britches, it's oft quoted in circles that I follow, and my kids and I are reading it. In this story, Ralph and his father live on a ranch and work on the ranch, and it talks a lot about his childhood and some of the experiences he has. And at one point, he does something dishonest, and he comes and talks to his dad about it. And it's one of those situations where it was worse that his dad was upset with him than any punishment could have been. And his dad teaches him this: a man's character is like his house. If he tears boards off his house and burns them to keep himself warm and comfortable, his house soon becomes a ruin. If he tells lies to be able to do the things he shouldn't do but wants to, his characters will soon become a ruin. I couldn't find the book downstairs, but the book As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, he says, a particular train of thought persisted in, be it good or bad, cannot fail to produce its results on the character. And he who lives constantly in the conception of noble and lofty thoughts, who dwells upon all that is pure and unselfish, will become wise and noble in character and rise into a position of influence and blessedness. So that was one of the premises all throughout As a Man Thinketh, that our thoughts are going to have an impact on our character, and it is my premise of my presentation. So I wanted to show a few examples of it using some other literature. I'll just tell you real quick, when I wrote this presentation originally, or what this presentation is based on, it's not quite the same one anymore. I had just finished a class where we were reading a lot of books, and we had all read the same books, and so my presentation was based largely on them. Then as I went back over it, I thought, hey, these really are good examples, so I kept them. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and A Man for All Seasons are the ones I'm going to talk about next. I know a lot of people know about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and I'm just going to try real hard to not do spoilers. I'm just going to hope that we have at least a little bit of a foundation where that's familiar. So in Jekyll and Hyde, Dr. Jekyll has a few different things, kind of turning points, choosing points, where he can choose to go down a path or go down a different path, and some of his thoughts are at the core of why he chooses the things he chooses. And without spoiling anything, I'll just say things don't go so well for him in the end because of his choices. So one of the things that he thought was that his sins were not as bad as other people's sins. Another was that he brought about more good than other people did. Another thought was that he could get rid of this pesky Mr. Hyde anytime he wanted. He found comfort from separating himself from Mr. Hyde, and the opposing parts of his character, just separating them. That helped him feel a little better. He said that his evil side was natural and legitimate, that Hyde's choices had nothing to do with him, which, if you know the story, not so much true. That he was safe from the consequences of Hyde's choices, and he focused on himself and not the impact that Mr. Hyde was making on other people. I argue that because of these thought patterns, he got the character and he got the result that he ended up with. Then, on the other hand, we have A Man for All Seasons, which is about Sir Thomas More, who lived in the 15th and 16th century in England, and he was a counselor of some sort, I'm not exactly sure, to Henry VIII, and he opposed some of the immoral choices that Henry VIII was making. And so this is a play about some of his experiences. I'll just tell you right now that it didn't end up so well for him either, despite some of these good choices. But think about what would happen to his character with some of these thoughts that he had. That he would stay true to his conscience, and doing so would bring peace and assurance of his path. That he was a man, that a man should go where he won't be tempted, that he must rule himself, that he was capable of keeping oaths, he was one who stands fast. A person is under the most obligation to be loyal to his conscience, and that he respects himself. So while his results didn't turn out the happiest the happiest ending, as he comes to the ending for the play, you see who he really has become. And I don't even know enough about him to know if I would agree or disagree with a lot of his choices, but what I know is he lived this way, he thought this way, and he became this kind of a person. And that's something that I respect a lot. So then what if your thoughts are not what you want them to be? What do you do? Are you stuck? Because those thoughts just come, whether we want them to or not. I don't know about you guys, but I've had some thoughts that I didn't want. So when that happens, what do we do? Boyd K. Packer said, "The mind is like a stage. During every waking moment, the curtain is up. There is always some act being performed on that stage. Have you noticed that shady little thoughts may creep in from the wings and attract your attention in the middle of almost any performance and without any real intent on your part? These delinquent thoughts will try to upstage everybody. If you permit them to go on, all thoughts of any virtue will leave the stage. If you can fill your mind with clean and constructive thoughts, then there will be no room for these persistent imps, and they will leave." And then a quote from another highly respected person named Landon Jenkins, who's 12 and in our ward. He said once, I think in primary, "Thoughts are like birds. You can't stop a bird from flying over your head, but you wouldn't let him stay and build a nest. You swat at him and make him go away." Yeah, I like that one, which it made it in here. So there's a lot that we can do, and I have learned a lot of different methods, a lot of processes, a lot of questions we can ask ourselves to take care of our thoughts and to get them to where we want to be. Even so, I still have a lot of thoughts that come that I'm not conscious of or that I don't want. So I could have gone a million different ways, and I'm just going to focus on a few little things. And some of the tools and resources Matt talks about in his upcoming part that's part of the business presentation, there are more resources available there for what to do with the thoughts we don't want. One of the things that I really like that I learned from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People was talking about our paradigms, like I mentioned earlier, and how sometimes our thoughts and our paradigms are not really in harmony with what we want. And when that happens, the best way to change the thoughts that are what we don't want is to change the whole paradigm. So a paradigm, for those who may not be familiar with that term, is a way that we see things. To me, it's like a whole big bundle of thoughts that all go together that are the way that we perceive life. And so, like the instance I talked about last week with Matt, I had a whole paradigm shift when I thought, the way I am doing things is not getting me what I want. And so if I want to get something different, I need to do something different. That was a paradigm shift with a specific application in my life. So shifting our whole paradigm can help. And ways that I think are really helpful are when we're reflective, to help us shift our paradigms. To write a lot, that's something that has helped me a whole lot. To discuss with other people, it can be a good way. And to try to just be conscious of what are we thinking. When something happens that we don't like, think about it. What happened in that situation that I didn't like? Why did it happen? What are my thoughts and beliefs and paradigms that affected what happened there? And so that you can change. Last week at this lecture series, a man came and spoke. His name is Jason Isaac, and he gave a wonderful presentation about habits. And he talked about some different things that we can do to change our habits. And so that was one of the things I thought about too, because a lot of our thoughts are really thought habits, like things that we think over and over and over and over. Like, my kids should stop messing with Benjamin. That's a habit of mine. I see it happen. Oh, they shouldn't do that. That's a habit. And so we change habits. We've had lots of lessons and talks and things we've heard about how to change habits. And Jason gave another really great one. So if you're interested in more information and ideas about that, watching his lecture would be great. One thing that I thought of is when I help my children to learn and I'm correcting their behavior, lots of times I have them practice over the things that I wish they had done. So we'll redo the whole scenario, and this time choose appropriately, like I just taught you how to do. And so then they'll have to do it 3 times, and sometimes my girls roll my eyes. It's an annoying thing that I make them do, practicing it over and over, but I think it's one of the best techniques, helpful things that I have in teaching them. And so sometimes Matt and I will do it. Sometimes we're trying to develop a new habit, and I'll be like, do that habit 3 times. And he'll go like, okay, after I brush my teeth, I go stand here, and I make him do it. And I was just talking to my mom about this last week, that I want to have a habit of these practice sessions for the habits I'm wanting to develop. Now, can that apply to our thoughts? I think it can. When we get to the point where we could go this way that we usually go, this pattern that we follow, where we think this, and we feel this, and then we say this, and then we do this, and then we have this kind of environment and result. Or, this is what I really want, this is where I really want to go, then I think we can go back. Maybe after we live out the scenario, we go back to that place again. When that kid did this, I thought this. What I'd really like to think is this. And we can practice 3 times. When Amy touches Benjamin, I'm going to think, Amy needs a reminder to not touch Benjamin. I will remind her now. And I mean, or whatever, I just made that up. But whatever it is that we want to think in the scenario, we can practice thinking it. It sounds kind of silly, but to me, it seems like it could help a lot. So there are a few specific areas where I think many people in our society have thought habits that sabotage their character development. I think that we could agree. So I wanted to talk about a few of them and helpful things that I think could be better options than those particular thought habits. So one of them is comparing ourselves to others. Have you guys ever done that before?
No.
Okay, good. Darn it, I have. So you hear things like, oh man, you're better than me. You blah, 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 blah. Or so-and-so's house, yard, kid, car, whatever, dress is so much whatever than mine. I mean, it happens all the time. We think it, we say it. I mean, I can't tell you how many people are like, Bonnie, I hate you, you're so skinny. They don't care that I'm skinny, they just care that they don't feel so skinny, and that they're kind of jealous that they think I'm skinny. Like, whatever it is. I'm just giving out examples. It's such a part of our culture. And when we compare ourselves, we're in this place of pride, we're in these thought habits that are not helping us. What would it do? This isn't necessarily a discussion question so much as a thinking question. What does it do to our character when we're comparing ourselves to others? Whether we think we're better or worse than, doesn't matter. What's it going to do to our character? Especially if we do it over and over and over and over. So when we want to change, we want to replace it with something else. Since it's a habit, we want to replace the habit we don't want with a habit we do want. So I think that we can replace the habit of comparing with the habit of kindness. So you think, that person's better at this than me, you were probably being unkind to yourself there. So that thought comes and you think, no, I'm choosing a habit of kindness. I'm going to be kind to myself. So you go back to where you first thought that and then thought, I have a nice house. Isn't that lovely? Maybe I will tell them how much I love their house. And then whatever you want to think for yourself, it doesn't really matter. It's what you want to choose. So maybe you think, I'm grateful I have a house too. I like my house too. Good job working on your house. Or whatever. I mean, it doesn't even matter. It's just being conscious of what we want. Another one is unrealistic expectations. And I'm thinking anywhere from like daily to-do lists to lifetime bucket lists to what we think our children should be geniuses at, and, you know, Olympian, prodigy, genius people. And we do it to ourselves and we do it to our kids big time. These unrealistic expectations. So, again, the question is, what impact on our character comes from having unrealistic expectations that we cannot meet? And then being frustrated going through the whole process. What does it do to our character over and over to have these unrealistic expectations? So to me, the thing to replace that habit with is the habit of setting goals, because we don't want to replace it with doing nothing. That's not going to help us feel better if we just give up and stop. But we don't want to be so unrealistic and so hard on ourselves either. To me, it's setting goals that encourage us, that motivate us, that help us keep going. Goals that are stretching, but not impossible. Another one's guilt. And I have to include this one because it was my plague for years. And I still deal with it some, but I'll tell you, not as much as I used to. And I'm a happier person because of it. Because I don't feel as much guilt. And I'm not talking about when you really do something wrong that you need to repent of or apologize for or whatever. I'm talking about all the guilt. And this one comes in messages that you may have heard before. I'm such a bad friend, mother, son, daughter, whatever, because I didn't do XYZ, or I forgot this, or lots of things.
Or you double booked something.
Or you double booked something. This happened with both of us today. We both double booked ourselves. So we could feel guilty about it. Hillary could be like, oh, what if I put Bonnie out? I also have a similar experience that recently happened with Victoria. What if I'm like beating myself up for months and weeks and years? How's that going to affect, well, first of all, how's it going to affect our relationships? But also, what's it going to do to our character if over and over and over we feel guilty about the things we're doing, and we hold on to the guilt, and we keep it, and we tell ourselves over and over how guilty we feel, and we just stay there? What's it going to do? So I think a good way to help replace the guilt, one thing, you can give yourself permission to just not go there. to just forgive yourself. Just say, whoops, I did that. Maybe there's a little bit of process. You might need to apologize if you did something that hurt someone. And then you try to forgive yourself and let it go. Sometimes easier said than done. Another thing that you can replace guilt with, especially if it's little things that don't really affect other people. You just, like these unrealistic expectations. You feel guilty that you didn't get to all of them. You're going to replace it with gratitude. And gratitude is something I'm not going into, but it is obviously a powerful thing. If you want to hear more about gratitude, come next week, because it is awesome, the presentation we're going to have next week about gratitude, and I am so excited. It's Kevin Clayson, and he's fun and dynamic, and I read his book already, even though it's not published. It is good. So come and hear that, and that's when you'll get ideas about gratitude. The last one is negative self-talk in whatever form. And like I said before, we want to replace it with kindness. So now it's your turn to practice. I'm not going to bring anyone up or embarrass anybody. Just think in your own minds about a situation like the one I brought up with people touching Benjamin. Just one thing, probably it's better if it's little and petty, because I think that'll work best. We're not going to go deep down into major trauma here. So think about something that happens in your life that you don't like. Something that when it happens, you're triggered, your buttons are pushed. We all have an idea, a specific something. So thinking about that situation, when that situation happens, what are your thoughts? I'm going to go kind of quick, and you can watch the replay if you want to go back through the whole process. What are your feelings when that situation happens? What are your actions? Particularly, what are your habitual actions that you do over and over in that situation? And then the big, big question, what is that thought about that situation doing to your character, to who you are, and the way you show up in life, the way you are? And even quicker, we're going to go through, think about, in that situation, what thought you would want. Just one other little thought. If that happens, what do you wish you just naturally thought? And if you had that thought, how would it affect your feelings? What would your actions and habits be? And how would that other new thought affect your character? It seems such a little thing, but I don't think it is. I think when we choose little different thoughts, it can take us on paths that start out close and end up in a vastly different place. I want to finish by telling you some things that I believe, that I wrote down. I believe that who we become is more important than what we do, and it's more important than what we have. I believe that our thoughts really do determine our character, that our character can be traced back to the thoughts we have. I believe that we get to choose whether we do it consciously or unconsciously. We're still choosing the person that we are going to become, that we are becoming. I believe that if we want to change attributes about ourselves, we must consciously choose the thoughts that lead to those attributes and lead to that person we want to be. I believe that building our character house, like Ralph Moody talked about in Little Britches, is noble work. I think it's really, really important, and that it's essential to us performing the missions that God gave us specifically to do on earth. I believe that working on our character is work God wants us to do, and I believe He will help us. I believe that we can change and we can become, and I believe that it's worth doing. I will continue to become the person I want to be and that God wants me to be by choosing my thoughts and by changing my thoughts to be more in harmony. I know I'm not going to be done tomorrow, but I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to do it today, and I'm going to do it tomorrow, and I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm going to do it so that I can do that work God wants me to do. Thank you.
Excellent.
For you, Jeff.
Awesome. Thank you, Bonnie. That was great. I heard some of that, but yeah, like she said, that transitioned a lot from last time I heard it. And I really like the concept of what will this thought do to my character. I believe that often the best guidance we get in life is not through the answers to our questions, but what questions we ask. I think that's an amazing question to consider and ask ourselves. So thank you. As mentioned at the beginning, soon to come is some Ben & Jerry's. I forgot to mention that Bonnie's favorite flavor of Ben & Jerry's is American Dream. We have some of that, so we'll be getting that out here in a little bit. And I just want to review what it is that we're doing. You know, we mentioned at the beginning, this is part of a business that we're running. We hopefully, if this is something that interests you, it's because that you believe similar to what we do, that, for example, from what she was sharing, about who we're becoming is more important than necessarily what we do or what we have. And I just want to share a little story about myself. When I was young, when I was in 6th grade, I was driving with my mom in the car, and I remember it was the day that she told me about the big transition from 6th grade to 7th grade. And you know what you lose between 6th grade and 7th grade?
Recess.
Recess. Exactly. You bet. That information was, I mean, that was a tragedy for me. Because I still remember clearly when that conversation happened. I was very distraught about it. And come 7th, 8th grade, that's when people start asking you, so what do you want to be when you grow up, right? And I would tell people, you know, I was thinking about, I just lost recess. Like, I can't wait until I'm out of school. And that's what I said. I just can't wait until I'm out of school. Of course, they'd laugh and be like, you got a lot of years ahead of you, punk. You're in 8th grade, 7th grade, whatever. And then some people said, you get out of school, you're going to have to get a job, and you don't even get summers off. I wasn't thrilled about that either. And so, as the smart aleck kid I was, I came up with a better answer. People said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, retired. And yeah, they kind of laughed at me there too. And you're a little punk kid. All right, good luck to you on that. And but that kind of mentality stayed with me. And my dad was an entrepreneur. He built a business. It was something that, you know, he did what he loved, and he kind of put some of those thoughts into my brain just growing up. He lectured me at length every time we were in the car driving, and but I appreciate the influence that he had on me and the thoughts that he put into my mind. As I got into the workforce and had that wonderful honeymoon experience of, I have a job, I have a real paycheck, this is amazing, and then, you know, okay, I have 12 vacation days a year. The honeymoon period waned, and I started thinking, okay, what am I going to do? Because all I knew was what everyone says, you know, you go to school, go through college, get a job. Now what? So I started looking, and I looked at real estate. That was something I was interested in, not because I cared about real estate, quite frankly. I was just looking for more recess, right? And looked around, had a number of unpleasant experiences with real estate education companies, enough that when my father-in-law, Bonnie's dad, invited me to come check out one more company in an evening, I said, no, I'm done. No thanks. I'm not interested. He had done it. No thanks. I had given up pretty much. But he was persistent, and Bonnie finally said, hon, let's just humor him. You know, go. You don't have to do anything. You just sit in the back. It's okay. So we went, and I was in the back, rather condescending and all humph, and but I was surprised. Rather than being a company that was trying to push things on me, they were very calm and said, let's see if this is a good fit. And they said, rather than, you know, I'll give you some knowledge and good luck and you go do it, which I knew I couldn't do, they said, no, we don't trust you to try to do that, thank you. We'll do it for you. and then you can just call the shots and go from there. That caught my attention. So we did our due diligence, and we've been clients for about 4 years. They've helped buy our home here, and they've helped us buy 3 further investment properties. They're doing well, they're cash flowing, they're growing in value, and it's excellent. It's building for us a retirement. And here's the core value behind this. I believe that our resources are meant to be used. I believe our resources are meant to be used. And what I mean by that is, as opposed to, flippantly spent or saved and hoarded, they're meant to be put to service so that they make a return for us, but also so that they serve. Because, again, it's not about what we have in this life, it's about who we're becoming. And I believe that our resources are meant to do that. Real estate is one way that we can put our resources to use, where we're looking more at cash flow. We're not worried about, do we have enough? We're worried about, are we providing enough? Because if we are, that return will come to us if we're doing it wisely. So they take care of that. And if that's something that piques your interest, then we'll talk more about it. It costs money to come in, to play with them. And, again, they do all the work. They're the mortgage brokerage, they're the real estate brokerage, they're the property manager. They have all the professionals in place. You get a coach, they hook you up with the people you need to work with, and they take care of you. You just call the shots. Say, I want that house. Okay? Let's get it for you. Because they have their system, you don't have to worry about it. And instead of, instead of all the education and going out and saying, good luck, where about 2% of people, after paying thousands of dollars, actually go do something. I was talking with a woman just recently. She paid $40,000 to be part of an inner circle group. And she came out of that, and $40,000 for that education, guess how many houses they were able to get from that? None. They never actually went out and did anything. As opposed, in Strongbrook, over 70% of people that are clients, when they come in, within 6 months own a home, own an investment home. It's a different model. And so that was what I appreciated when I saw it. So it costs anywhere from, whether it's $99 a month up to the maximum package, depending on how you come in, is $16,000. Still a far cry from $40,000. And depending on how you come in, it will get you different services, but it will help you get on a road to where you're investing. Now, this company, it's Strongbrook, after they were doing, as any company does, traditional marketing. They had radio ads, they had their TV ads, they had billboards, all that kind of stuff, and they had a budget of $100,000 a month on that kind of advertising. Now, if you can imagine, just imagine for a moment, you're a business owner, and you have a budget, and you're spending $100,000 a month. And then you find out that you have some people who are clients who are referring people and saying, hey, can we get a little kickback? I referred my friend, and they came in, and it was awesome. Can I get a little bit of a kickback for that? And they said, sure, we'll pay a few $100. And that was it. And then to find out, if you have that kind of a business, that 60% of your people plus that are new clients are coming from that, and you're spending $100,000 over here, what are you going to do? You're still going to want to pay $100,000 for 40% of your clients? Not so much, right? So they said, okay, let's stop. Let's cut that out. We are going to, we'll take that money, and instead they created a world-class referral program where they said, hey, if someone comes in, let's take that money and pay the people who are referring them better, rather than spending on this that we just hope people come and hear it. And that's what they did. And that's what we're doing here. Our business is being a referral partner to Strongbrook. And if someone likes the message, if it resonates with you, great. If you come in, then we would get a referral check for that. That's how the program works. So the way it works, if that resonates with you, you request a game plan. They will sit down with you for free, no obligation, no pressure or anything, and just say, hey, what's your financial situation? You're here? Great. Here's what we could do for you. Does that interest you? If so, great, let's work together. If not, no problem. But there are options for you. And that's the way it goes. Then just recently, as to give some context, the founder of this company, his name is Chris Crone, he began as a college student who had his dream job. He was telemarketing. If any of you have done that, I'm sure you know how awesome of a job it is to land. And he was actually selling on the phone these real estate education packages as a college student. And he was talking to these 40, 50-year-olds that were feeling very concerned about their retirement because they felt like they didn't have enough, and so they were paying this money to try to get some real estate education so they could make a difference. And it clicked to him that this isn't working. So he went out and found some million-dollar mentors, people who were millionaires in real estate, and said, what are you doing? How do I do this? Help me. Because if you're going to look for a mentor, it's best to look for someone who has been where you want to go, right? And that's the idea. So that's what he did. Well, since then, he was able to become a millionaire himself. He's an anomaly. He was able to go out there and do it, and he loved it. But he realized that since then, he's been able to afford hundreds of thousands of dollars of mentorship from world-class mentors. Most people can't afford to do that. He said, let's step back a minute and look at this. How can we get this kind of valuable mentorship into the hands of ordinary, everyday people? We've done it with real estate. You don't have to be rich to get into real estate anymore. We can help people do that. How do we do it with mentorship? Because it's not just about wealth. It's about mindset. The most valuable real estate we have is up here, between our ears. Because, like Bonnie said, it's our thoughts that determine our character, and who we are and who we become, and that's what matters in this life. So he created what's called a mentoring network. And I feel like, if anything, we have created a mentoring network. Taking top-line mentors, come on in, taking top-line mentors from across the world, people like Roger Salam, Les Brown, Leslie Householder, to name a few, Nicolene Peck, amazing, amazing individuals, and ask them, will you please donate your content? Put it in a digital form that you, not the free books, not the free stuff, but the content that you charge hundreds and thousands of dollars for. I was just at a seminar this last week where I saw the hundreds and thousands of dollar packages that they sell just for information, just for home study kits and things like that. Will you donate that and put it on this network so that people can have access to it? And we'll just set up a subscription model. And by doing that, it will also gain exposure for you. And if people want to, if it resonates with them and they want to pursue further, they can contact you. So it's kind of a exposure for you, but we're making a difference for people, making it available and affordable. And people have been jumping in left and right. They're talking, mentors are coming in every week. We see a list. Here's the new mentors this week. This is just launched in February. And it's brand new, and it's phenomenal. So that's called the Conscious Creator Mentoring Network. Go for it. Crying kid downstairs. I don't know if you can hear it online, but we can hear it. And so those are the three aspects of the company, really. Three pillars, if you will. There's facilitated real estate, there's entrepreneurship through the referral program, and there's personal development, personal growth through the mentoring network. And again, if any of those interest you, we're happy to talk about it over some ice cream. And otherwise, we will just say we appreciate you all coming. And for those online, I don't have any ice cream for you, but if you figure out that technology, I'd be happy to share. And so thank you, and that wraps it up.